Hello and welcome. You have tuned into World Business Report here on News 9 Live, where we get you all the latest from the world of business, economy, finance, technology, entertainment, and lots more from all across the world. I'm Krishna Kumar. And we begin with a big global breaking story where residents of Taiwan's capital Taipei were shaken on Wednesday morning as a powerful earthquake measuring 7.4 on the Richter scale struck offshore Taiwan. The quake, which occurred at 7:58 a.m., caused power outages in various parts of the Taiwanese capital of Taipei. Witnesses described the tremors as intense, with one resident stating that it felt like the house was about to collapse, while another described it as terrifying. Aftershocks were reported in Taipei, with over 25 aftershocks recorded so far. This earthquake marks the strongest to hit Taiwan in 25 years. At least one person is feared dead and nearly 60 have been injured by this powerful quake. Officials have warned of more tremors in the days ahead, with the quake being the strongest to shake the island in decades. While the strict building regulations and disaster awareness helped prevent a major catastrophe, landslides blocked roads to Hualien, a coastal city of around 100,000 people in Taiwan. The quake's epicenter was 18 kilometers south of Taiwan's Hualien city, and its impact was felt in Taiwan, Japan, and the Philippines. Social media has been flooded with videos and images of swaying buildings, and dramatic scenes emerged of multi-storied structures leaning over. Despite the initial tsunami warning, the threat largely passed, but the quake's impact remains significant. Now, recent court documents revealed troubling allegations against Facebook, accusing the tech giant of allowing Netflix access to users' private messages in exchange for data. This revelation emerges amidst Meta's decision to shutter its streaming business, including popular shows like Red Table Talk on Facebook Watch, citing cost-cutting measures and layoffs. However, the lawsuit sheds new light, suggesting Meta's decision was influenced by Netflix, which is a significant advertising partner. The lawsuit further alleges anti-competitive practices, claiming that Facebook prioritized its relationship with Netflix over fair competition, potentially harming consumers. Now, according to the documents, this exchange dates back to the year 2013, raising questions about user privacy and Facebook's transparency. Despite previous claims of end-to-end encryption, Meta is yet to address these allegations. North Korea fired a suspected intermediate-range ballistic missile into the sea off its east coast, and that's according to reports by South Korea's military. The missile, believed to be a new intermediate-range hypersonic type powered by solid fuel, was launched from Pyongyang at around 7 a.m. local time on Tuesday. It flew around approximately 372 miles before crashing into the sea. This Reuters report tells you all about it.
North Korea fired a suspected intermediate-range ballistic missile into the sea off its east coast on Tuesday, according to South Korea's military. North Korea has tested similar technology before, as seen in this state media video of a test in 2023. However, the South's military says Tuesday's launch appears to be related to a new intermediate-range hypersonic missile powered by a solid fuel engine that was fired from Pyongyang at around 7 a.m. local time. They said the missile flew about 372 miles before plunging into the sea. Kim Jong-un oversaw a ground test of such an engine last month, as state media says was shown in this footage. Solid fuel missiles do not need to be fueled immediately ahead of launch and are often easier and safer to operate. It could make these weapons harder to detect. Tuesday's test sparked condemnation from the leaders of both the South and Japan. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol said Pyongyang will try to cause confusion as Seoul prepares for a major election later this month. Japan's leader Fumio Kishida said it disrupted the peace and stability of the region. Both countries are U.S. allies and have recently expanded military cooperation with Washington, as concerns grow that Russia is growing its own ties with Pyongyang. Officials in the United States, South Korea, and Ukraine have accused North Korea of providing weapons to Russia, including missiles for use in the war in Ukraine. Pyongyang and Moscow have denied the allegations.
Now, trapped vessels are finally finding a way out of the Baltimore port after the collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge last week. A channel has been cleared on the northbound side of the fallen crossing, allowing limited marine traffic to pass through. Take a look at this.
Trapped vessels have started to escape Baltimore port following last week's collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge. A channel has been opened on the northbound side of the fallen crossing. That's allowing limited marine traffic to pass through. The first vessel was a tug pushing a barge full of jet fuel for the Department of Defense. However, much of the channel remains blocked by wreckage and the giant container ship Dolly, which struck the bridge and brought it down. That means it could be a long time before commercial shipping can get back to normal at the port, a key gateway for exports of farm goods and other products. Maryland Governor Wes Moore says no effort will be spared to restore the crossing and restart cargo movement.
We cannot rebuild the bridge until we clear the wreckage. But I'm telling you, we are going to get this done. We will clear the channel. We will move the Dolly. We will rebuild the Francis Scott Key Bridge.
Efforts are underway to remove the wreckage, but it's no easy task. Officials say it's so tangled that it's hard to know where to cut. Recovery workers needed 10 hours to free and remove one 200-ton piece of debris, and they described that as a relatively small lift. The Coast Guard says the situation is even worse underwater, where visibility is limited by the sheer volume of debris. That all leaves officials unwilling to estimate how long the clear-up could take. On Friday, U.S. President Joe Biden will get a first-hand look at the problem when he visits the area. The administration is working with Congress to ensure that the federal government pays to rebuild the bridge.
Now, Tesla is falling out of favor with consumers in America, and that's according to a survey by market intelligence firm Caliber, which found the number of potential Tesla buyers in the US is shrinking, attributed in part to CEO Elon Musk's polarizing persona. This report tells you all about it.
Tesla is falling out of favor with American consumers. That's according to a survey by market intelligence firm Caliber, which found the number of potential Tesla buyers in the U.S. is shrinking, which it attributed in part to CEO Elon Musk's polarizing persona. Caliber's so-called consideration score for the electric car company, provided exclusively to Reuters, dropped to 31% in February, down from 70% in November 2021, when it started tracking consumer interest in the brand. Other car companies Caliber tracks have fared better. Tesla did not respond to a request for comment. Musk in the past has blamed high interest rates for curbing consumer demand for big-ticket items like cars. Caliber cited strong associations between Tesla's reputation and that of Musk for the scores, with its survey showing 83% of Americans connect Musk with Tesla. Reuters spoke to 5 marketing, polling, and car experts who said controversies surrounding Musk's increasingly right-wing politics and public statements are weighing on Tesla's brand and demand. In recent years, the billionaire courted controversy with his embrace of the Republican Party and endorsements of anti-Semitic comments on X. Musk has denied being anti-Semitic. Tesla continued to post strong sales growth last year, helped by aggressive price cuts, though the EV maker is expected to report weak quarterly sales as early as Tuesday. The stock has fallen about 30% so far in 2024.
Now, critics are calling Tesla's latest quarterly report quote-unquote ugly, as the electric vehicle giant saw its delivery numbers dip for the first time in almost 4 years. Despite slashing prices to spur demand, Tesla reported a decrease of nearly 8.5% in deliveries compared to the same period last year and a staggering 20% drop from the previous quarter.
Shares of Tesla sank on Tuesday after the electric vehicle maker reported a drop in quarterly deliveries for the first time in nearly 4 years. The slump in deliveries, Tesla's closest approximation of sales, was described by some analysts as ugly, and it comes despite price cuts to drive up lagging demand. Elon Musk's EV maker said it delivered nearly 387,000 vehicles in the first 3 months of this year. That's an 8.5% drop from a year ago and a 20% drop from the previous quarter. One analyst called the results an unmitigated disaster that is hard to explain away, adding, quote, "This was a train wreck into a brick wall quarter for Musk and Company." Tesla attributed the drop in deliveries to its efforts to prepare its Fremont, California factory to handle increased production of the updated Model 3 and to shutdowns at its Berlin plant due to the impact of the Red Sea conflict and an arson attack. The company has also been facing intense competition in China from local players, including market leader BYD, which overtook Tesla as the largest EV maker in the fourth quarter. But there's another factor that could be denting Tesla's reputation: its CEO's often polarizing personality. A recent survey showed that Musk's tilt to right-wing politics and often controversial public statements are turning away some potential Tesla customers in the U.S. Still, with a market capitalization well above the combined valuation of Toyota, Mercedes-Benz, and Porsche, not all Wall Street analysts see a bumpy road ahead. Gene Munster of Deepwater Asset Management, among those who called Tesla's results ugly, nevertheless remained upbeat on the EV maker's long-term prospects. Writing on Musk's social media platform X, Munster said, quote, "I still believe Tesla is on the right track and this storm will pass." Shares of Tesla were on track to lose about $30 billion in market value on Tuesday. That adds to a nearly 30% slide in value so far this year.
Now, the United States of America, the United Nations, and others have condemned an Israeli airstrike that tragically killed 7 aid workers in Gaza. The victims included citizens from Australia, Britain, Poland, Palestine, and a dual citizen of the US and Canada.
The United States, the UN, and other world powers on Tuesday condemned an Israeli airstrike that mistakenly killed 7 aid workers in Gaza. Video obtained by Reuters showed a large hole in the roof of a four-wheel drive vehicle belonging to the World Central Kitchen, a charity founded by celebrity chef Jose Andres. Paramedics were seen moving bodies into a hospital and displaying the passports of 3 of those killed. U.S. National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications John Kirby said the White House was outraged by the attack.
I think by saying we're outraged, I think you can fairly characterize that as condemning the strike itself. Of course, I mean, nobody wants to see this kind of violence happen to humanitarian aid workers who, as was noted earlier, were doing all the right things.
The airstrike killed citizens of Australia, Britain, and Poland, as well as Palestinians, and a dual citizen of the United States and Canada. Jessica Olney was a friend of Australian aid worker Zomi Francom, who was killed in the airstrike.
There's no words. You know, these are some of the best people out there doing the most important work. And people like Zomi are so selfless and only doing what they do because of their love for humanity. There's no other reason. It makes me feel like humanity has reached a new low to see something like this happen.
Israel's military expressed, quote, sincere sorrow over the incident. Here's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu.
Unfortunately, in the last day, there was a tragic case of our forces unintentionally hitting innocent people in the Gaza Strip. This happens in wartime. We are thoroughly looking into it, are in contact with the government, and will do everything to ensure it does not happen again.
The incident ratcheted up international pressure for steps to ease the disastrous humanitarian situation in Gaza. Nearly 6 months into Israel's siege and invasion of the Palestinian enclave, including from UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
This is unconscionable, but it is an inevitable result of the way the war is being conducted. It demonstrates yet again the urgent need for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire, the unconditional release of all hostages, and the expansion of humanitarian aid into Gaza, as the Security Council demanded in its resolution last week. The resolution must be implemented without delay.
The Israeli military pledged an investigation into the deaths of the aid workers by an independent, professional, and expert body.
Shifting focus to Australia, where Prime Minister Anthony Albanese also condemned the Israeli drone strike on a 7-member team from the World Central Kitchen Aid Agency, now stating that it would only exacerbate international concerns over the extraordinary loss of life in Gaza. Listen to what Australia's Prime Minister had to say.
Australia expects full accountability for the deaths of aid workers, which is completely unacceptable. Aid workers and those doing humanitarian work, and indeed all innocent civilians, need to be provided with protection. I didn't have the honour of knowing her, but the sort of values that are shown by someone going into a very dangerous place in order to assist mankind, their fellow humans, people who she didn't know, she just wanted to help out through this charity. It says everything about the character of this young woman. And so this is a tragedy, and my sincere condolences and that of the Australian government go to Zomi's family, to her friends and all who knew her.
On to Wall Street, which witnessed a downturn largely due to Tesla stock, which weighed heavily on both the S&P 500 and Nasdaq. Investor concerns were compounded by fears that recent strong economic data might dissuade the US Federal Reserve from implementing the much anticipated interest rate cuts. This unease was reflected in the 10-year Treasury yield, which climbed to its highest level since November 2023. Here is a detailed report from Reuters on Wall Street.
Wall Street's main indexes fell on Tuesday, with Tesla stock one of the biggest drags on the S&P 500 and Nasdaq. The Dow dropped 1%, the S&P 500 shed 0.7%, and the Nasdaq lost nearly 1%. Also weighing on the market were investors' fears that recent strong economic data would potentially curb interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. That was also reflected Tuesday in the 10-year Treasury yield, which rose to its highest level since late November. Michael Green is chief strategist at Simplify Asset Management.
So I think the really interesting question around the Fed has indicated that there will be 3 rate cuts. The market is now challenging that on the back of strong data. Again, the data itself is not absolutely strong. It's relatively strong versus expectations. I don't see any reason to believe that the Fed is not actually going to follow through on their rate cuts, but it is certainly in question right now.
Shares of Tesla dropped roughly 5% after the electric vehicle maker posted a decline in quarterly deliveries for the first time in nearly 4 years and missed Wall Street estimates. Shares of tech giants Nvidia, Apple, and Microsoft also ended the session lower. Moving to retail, Shares of Calvin Klein parent PVH Corp tumbled 22% after the retailer forecast a roughly 11% drop in first quarter revenue. And healthcare stocks were also among the day's weakest performers. Shares of United Health tumbled nearly 6.5%, CVS Health lost more than 7%, and Humana plunged nearly 13.5%, after the U.S. government kept reimbursement rates for providers of Medicare Advantage health plans unchanged.
GE Aerospace and GE Verona, an energy company, celebrated side by side on their first day of trading on the New York Stock Exchange on Tuesday, marking the official split of General Electric, or GE, into three separate entities. More details in this report.
GE Aerospace on the left and GE Verona, an energy company, on the right, celebrated side by side on their first day of trading on the New York Stock Exchange Tuesday. It marked the official split of General Electric into three separate companies after GE Healthcare Technologies started trading on the NASDAQ last year. It's the end of an era for the industrial conglomerate that was once a symbol of American business power. The three-way breakup is the culmination of CEO Larry Culp's efforts to breathe life into the company. The 2008 financial crisis nearly bankrupted its most profitable business, GE Capital, which was deemed too big to fail by the U.S. government. As it lurched from crisis to crisis, GE, which was an original member of the blue-chip Dow Jones Industrial Average, lost its place in the index in June 2018. Culp took over as CEO a few months later and cut its dividend to a penny to conserve cash. Reuters had reported that Culp started informally discussing the idea of a breakup with advisors in 2021. He is now the CEO of GE Aerospace. Analysts estimate the company, which makes jet engines for Boeing and Airbus, will have a market cap of more than $100 billion after the spin-off. Shares of GE Verona, which focuses on renewable energy and electricity generation, rose as much as 2% in morning trading, while GE Aerospace climbed as much as 3%.
Now, Xiaomi's foray into the electric car market appears to be off to a very strong start, signaling a promising debut for the renowned mobile phone maker in a brand new sector. Xiaomi launched its first electric vehicle, the SU7 sedan, priced competitively at just under $30,000, garnering significant consumer interest. Xiaomi's shares soared in their first day of trading since the firm launched its debut EV. Take a look at this.
Xiaomi looks to be enjoying a strong debut in the market for electric cars. Better known as a phone maker, the firm launched its first EV last week. The SU7 sedan is priced from just under $30,000. On Monday, the Xiaomi app was showing waits of up to 7 months to get one of the cars. The firm says it took almost 89,000 orders in the vehicle's first 24 hours on sale. Over the weekend, company boss Lei Jun said Xiaomi had taken action to stop scalpers placing orders for the cars. However, analysts will be watching to see if the company can sustain its early success, because it enters the market at a very tough time. China is in the middle of a fierce price war over EVs, and there could already be signs of casualties. On Monday, Reuters reported that state-owned carmaker SAIC Motor plans to cut thousands of jobs. That includes more than half of all workers at its Rising Auto EV unit. Long China's biggest automaker, SAIC has been hit by the rise of newcomers like Tesla and local rival BYD, now the world's top maker of electric cars. A SAIC spokesperson called the Reuters report speculation.
And that's all we have time for in this edition of World Business Report. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.